All right, so for lab 6-1, we're going to be going through and we're going to be modifying and creating some group policy objects. So we're going to do a lot of this here, but we're also going to have a lot of additional group policy objects that we're going to create and manage in subsequent labs for WSUS, for file shares, for printers. So we're going to have some other stuff we're going to do with this. So by the end of the term here, you'll have a very good understanding of group policy and how to manage it. So, but for this lab, we're going to go through and we're going to modify two policies to display an interactive logon message. And then the second one, we're going to include a password and account lockout policy for the domain itself, so that you have to have a certain password. And then lastly, we're going to create a new policy that's going to configure the DNS suffix and then some of the screensaver settings. And then we're going to link it to all of the OUs that we created in last week's labs. So this is just a small subset of the things that you can do in group policy. There's a whole lot of stuff you can do. You can install software, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to do that in here because it's pretty involved. However, the idea here is just to get you familiar with how group policy works, and then how to test it on the clients itself, which is what we'll do in Lab 6.2. So let's go ahead and get started. So I already have my virtual machine started up here, but you need to start up Lab or TEC330 ADDC, and then log in as the administrator account. And then we're going to go to Server Manager and Tools, and we're going to go to the Group Policy Management area. So you could see that, when you guys go into it, you'll have something that looks like this. And then underneath of it, if you expand it, you'll have domains. And then you can see your domain. If you had more than one domain, you would have, all of that there. But then you could see all of your OUs here. And then you can see some of the default policies that get created, which is what we're going to edit for the first exercise, or first and second exercise here. And then the third one, we're going to create a new one, and then I'm going to show you how to link it to a specific area. And then lastly, it's not part of the assignment, but I'm going to show you how the inheritance works with group policy. So first one, what we want to do is we want to modify the default domain controllers policy under domain controllers OU and display an interactive logon message. Okay, so basically the idea here is that we want to display a message when you log into the domain controller that this is an authorized, authorized users only, kind of like a banner message. So that's what we're going to do for this exercise. So if you click on the default domain controllers policy, it's going to show on the right here a whole bunch of security setting or under scope. And then if you go to settings, what it does here, nope, we got to add this. Good times. So what it does here is it displays, basically all the settings in this collapsible grid, and then you can see all of the settings that are under there. So how you actually edit it, though, is you can either double click on it, which will open up a window here that you can use to edit it. Maybe you can't double click it. Okay, so you can't double click it. So you got to right click and hit edit. So again, if you right click, you can see that there's edit, enforce, link enabled, all those type of things. I'll go over what those are later, but for here we're going to edit. And then I believe this is under computer policies and administrative templates. And I believe it's under system. And then it's not under there. It might be under Windows settings. Let's see. Yes, it is. It's under security settings. And then local policies, security options, I believe. Okay, so here, this is where we're looking for these ones that say interactive login. So here you can see message text for users attempting to log in. So basically all you do here is you click the button that says define this policy, and then you type out what you want to put. So I'm going to put here, attention, authorized access only. So basically what's going to happen is this message is going to display before the user logs in. So then you hit apply and OK, and you can see that this has been configured. Now here's, we have message title. So here we're going to say authorized users only. So I'm going to do that as well. And then that is it for this setting right now. So we've done the first part of this. So, and again, we're not going to actually test this out right now. We're going to do that in the next lab. But if you want to test this out, what you would do is you just log off here and then log back in, and you should see this message come up. Okay, trying to figure out whether there's a comma there. Maybe you just need to make it one line. Maybe we'll just make it one line. Do this. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, so you guys can put whatever message you want for this. Really, it's just to know that you can do this. So now, if we close out this group policy editor, and then if we do a refresh here on the settings screen, now if we go under security settings, security options, we can see that interactive login is here. And now you can see here's what we just set up, right? So you'll want to take a screenshot of this here, and this will be one of your screenshots to submit for this assignment. Okay, so second part of this is we want to modify the default domain policy at the root to include a password and account lockout policy. Okay, so biggest thing here is that you always want to have a policy for passwords on your domain. This ensures that everybody's meeting the guidelines. There is a default. However, we're going to override that here. So if we edit the default domain policy, and then again, I believe this is under user configuration, Windows settings. Oh, no, it's not under there. It must be under computer settings, Windows settings, security settings, and then we can see our account policies. So we can see our password policy. And you can see that these are pretty ridiculous. It remembers 24 passwords. That's a little ridiculous. You can have a password only for 42 days. So, you know, obviously these are not ideal passwords. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and change these settings. So I'm going to change this to, let's just say, the last 10 passwords. And then we're going to make our age, we're going to make this every 90 days. instead of every 42 days. Minimum password age is always going to be 1 day. And then minimum password length, we're going to change this to 10 characters. So we're going to say you must make at least a 10-character password. And then you can always click on explain here. Okay, so this is just for audit events, so we don't want to do that one. And then password complexity requirements, you always want to have this enabled. And what this means is, if you look at the explain here, shows you passwords must meet the following if this is checked. So be at least 6 characters, contain 3 of the 4 categories. So uppercase, lowercase, digit, non-alphanumeric. So this is enabled by default, so we don't actually have to change anything with this. And then store passwords using reversible encryption. You do not want this enabled because that will allow someone to reverse engineer the passwords if they got them, or reverse engineer them easier. So this is the password policy part. Now we're going to do the account lockout policy. So in the same area here under the left side, you're going to have the account lockout policy. So here, this is actually not defined by default. So we're going to go ahead and do this. So our duration, this is going to be the amount of time that the account is locked out for if they get locked out, right? So we're going to do 5 minutes here. Apply. And then it's going to change the other settings based on the value that you put in here, right? So it says because of the value is now 5 minutes, the settings of the following items will be changed to the suggested value, right? So you're going to hit OK here, right? So your lockout threshold. So this is a good number, 5 invalid login attempts, and then it's going to lock out your account. So, and then we have allow administrator lockout. We want to enable this. And the reason we want to enable that is because obviously you want every account to be in the lockout. So if somebody's trying to hack into your administrator account, you want that to be done. And then this reset account lockout counter after should, I'm pretty sure it should always match your duration. At least that's the best practice. So we're going to leave that set to 5 minutes, like it suggested when we changed the duration. So once you've got that done, you can then close out this policy and then again, refresh the default domain policy here. You can use the little refresh button at the top. And then if you go under security settings here, you can then display the password policy and the account lockout policy. And then this is what you want to take a screenshot of to submit for this portion of the assignment. So now you can see that here it's clearly defined what your password policy is and all that kind of stuff. So now, with password policies, this is kind of the old way to do it. You still need to do it here in Windows. However, there is another area where you configure, you can do password policies by groups of people. So that's not done in this area here. It's actually done in the Active Directory Admin Center. If anybody's interested in looking at that, I'm sure you can find a video on YouTube or, just Google it. Basically it's password policy by group, and you'll see how that's done. It's very similar to this, like the settings are the same, it's just done in a different area. But again, you'll want to take a screenshot of this area here, and that will get you your part of this part for the assignment. So the last part, we're going to create a new policy named General Lab Policy, and we're going to do that in the Group Objects folder. So let's do that first. So we can close this. Oh, I didn't want to close that. Whoops. So I'm going to go back in because I didn't want to do that. So best practice is to actually create the group policy objects in the group policy objects folder. You can actually create one and link it here. I just always, did it this way just because it was easier for me to do this and then link it where it needed to go. Because I generally try to create policies, in my experience, that were general and could be applied across multiple OUs. So you might have like 30 policies that apply to one computer because you have a policy for printers, you have a policy for shared drives, you have a policy for a whole bunch of different things, and then it gets applied to whatever OU that you want it to apply to. So here I'm going to do a new, and we're going to call this, what were we supposed to call it? General Lab Policy. General Lab Policy. Hit OK. All right, so second thing we need to do is configure the DNS suffix and screensaver settings. So what this is going to do is this is going to automatically apply the DNS suffix of TEC330.local to the connections that you have. And then secondly, we're going to configure the screensaver settings so that the screensaver does a lockout. So you have to enter your password when you come back. Your screen will lock out after a certain amount of minutes. Those type of things we're going to actually do in this exercise. So let's go back to our policy here. We can go Edit. So once we click Edit, and it opens up our General Lab Policy. Now it's under the user settings or user configuration area under Administrative Templates, and then it's under Control Panel, and then it's under Personalization, right? So under here, we have Enable Screensaver. So we want to enable the screensaver. So we're going to hit apply here and OK. So that's going to enable the screensaver. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a little hack here that has been around forever for Windows. This is basically a hack for Windows that allows you to lock the computer workstation when the screensaver comes on. So it's basically run DLL32 user 32.dll comma lock work station, and there's no there's no space there. So here what this is going to do is when this runs and the screensaver kicks off, it's actually going to lock the workstation. So we'll hit apply here. Okay. And then there should be password protect the the screensaver. So we want that to be on. So we'll hit apply on password protect. And then we're going to do prevent changing the screensaver so that nobody can change the screensaver. So we'll do that. And then we'll have screensaver timeout, right? So this is basically your time that it's going to automatically lock out your computer, right? So it's going to automatically lock your computer after a certain amount of time, right? So this is set to 900 seconds, which is kind of high. Let's see. Do the calculation in my head. 900 seconds is 15 minutes. So we're going to actually change this. We're going to make it 5 minutes because you're going to have to test this at some point. So we'll want to make sure that, you don't have to wait 15 minutes to test it. So 60 times 5. So we'll do 300. So we'll change this to 300 So that'll make our screensaver timeout 5 minutes. And then that is it for this policy. So we've done the policy configurations for this general lab policy. Now what we need to do is we need to actually link it to to the OUs that it needs to go to, right? So here, basically all you need to do is you go to the OU you want it to apply to. So for this instance, it tells us link it to accounting, HR, IT, sales, and server, right? So basically we want to link this anywhere where there's going to be a computer. So I guess we should link it under domain controllers as well. So we're going to do, you click link existing GPO, you pick your general lab policy, hit OK, and then it'll actually show under here as well. So we're going to do the same thing under domain controllers. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing under HR. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing under IT. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing under sales. And then we're going to do the same thing under servers. All right. So now we've got it linked everywhere. And now we want to actually view the settings so we can get our screenshot. So if you go under the settings for general lab policies, now you'll see here's our settings that we did for this exercise. So what you want to do is you want to leave these expanded and then have this showing, and this is what you want to have for your screenshot for this part of the assignment. I need to be able to see that you knew how to link them here, and then also knew how to view the settings here and configure the settings. So I'm going to actually go ahead and copy this command into our settings for the content for this course. Right here, I'm going to put it in here. So I'll do that here in a second, but that'll be there for you. And then that is it for this this assignment. Now I am going to go through and show you guys like how you can block policies and stuff like that, but this is it for this part of the assignment. Once you take this screenshot, that's all that's required for the submitting of the assignment. So there are ways to stop things from applying. So example, so say you have, right here we have two policies. We have default domain controllers policy and we have general lab policy. So there's two ways that you can do that. You can either unlink it by doing link enabled is false, or you can actually can also enforce it. So enforcing it means that its settings cannot be overwritten by another policy. So say you wanted, say you had a bunch of policies here and a bunch of people working on this. Obviously some things you don't want to be overwritten in later policies. So you could do that by enforcing it. The other thing you can do is if you click on the OU, you can actually change the order that these are applied in. So if you wanted the general lab policy to come first, you could do that. Or, you could just leave it the way that it is. Just depends on what you're doing in the group policy object to do that. And then you have your inheritance. So here it's going to show you the order that the policies or precedents that it's going to apply them in. So in general, group policy is going to start at the OU as far as precedence is concerned and then move its way up to the root. So that's how that most things are going to be applied for that, as far as that's concerned. Those are just a couple of the things that you can do. Again, that is it for this lab. And if you're moving on to the next lab, which is we're just going to be testing out these policies that we did. We will be starting with TEC330 ADDC turned on for that lab. So if you're moving right on to that, you can just leave it turned on. All right.